May I hide beneath your coat? A frontier love story. Arizona Territory, spring, 1874. The desert was a place that swallowed sound. Wind dragged across the sand in long, sighing breaths. Heat shimmered above the earth even in early morning, bending the horizon into a wavering mirage. A freight train tore across the barren land, iron wheels clanging against steel rails like distant thunder. Inside the last passenger car, the air hung thick with dust and unspoken hardship. Men sat hunched in worn coats and cracked boots. No one spoke. The West had a way of quieting people. At the far end of the carriage sat a man who seemed carved from the same earth the train was crossing. Jonah Cade. Broad shoulders, weathered face, a tan trail coat that had seen too many winters and too many gunshots. His hat brim shadowed his eyes, and those eyes were fixed on nothing. He hadn't said a word since boarding. Most folks knew better than to try. The door creaked open. A girl stepped inside, young, no more than 18. Dust streaked across her cheeks. Her dress was thin and torn along the hem. Boots too large for her feet slapped awkwardly against the floorboards. She looked back once over her shoulder. Fear moved with her. Her eyes scanned the carriage, desperate, searching. They landed on Jonah. She crossed the aisle in quick steps and stopped before him. "Sir," she whispered. Her voice cracked dry. He didn't move. "Please, may I sit beneath your coat?" That made him look up. Her name was Clara Whitlock. He would learn that later. But in that moment, she was just a trembling stranger with defiance still burning behind frightened eyes. "They're after me," she said softly. "Please don't let them find me." Jonah studied her for one long second. Then, without speaking, he shifted and opened the heavy side of his coat. She slipped beside him, curled small beneath the shelter of his frame. Her breathing trembled. His expression did not change. Bootsteps sounded moments later. 3 men entered the car. Hard faces. Greed in their eyes, they scanned passengers like hunters picking livestock. One looked directly at Jonah. Jonah looked back. Unmoving, unblinking. The man hesitated, turned away. But outside, someone shouted, "She's in there! Don't let her slip off!" The men moved again. Jonah stood. In one swift motion, he grabbed Clara's wrist. Hold tight. Before she could protest, he pulled her toward the rear exit. The train roared. The desert wind howled as he kicked open the emergency door. And they jumped. The fall, sand burned against Clara's skin. Her elbows split against stone. Her breath left her lungs in a sharp cry. Jonah rolled once and came to his feet. He hauled her upright. Behind them, the train shrieked onward. Voices echoed from above. They ran. Through sagebrush and broken rock. Down into a shallow ravine. Across brittle grass. Clara stumbled twice. Jonah never released her hand. By dusk, the shouting faded. They stood on a ridge overlooking a crooked ranch house in a shallow valley. A lantern flickered on the porch. Clara blinked. "Is this yours?" Jonah nodded once. "My place." The ranch. The yard was modest. Fences leaning but standing. A barn patched with tin sheets. Chickens scratching in the dirt. A small boy burst from behind the water trough. Wild blonde hair. Dirt-smeared grin. "Mr. Cade," he shouted. "You're back!" Jonah placed a steady hand on Clara's shoulder. "This is Ben," he said quietly. "He stays here." Ben studied Clara. "You run from something?" Clara smiled faintly. "Something like that." Inside, the house smelled of wood smoke and oats. Jonah gave her a spare blanket and the small room at the back. "You're safe here," he said. It was the first full sentence he had spoken all day. Clara didn't sleep much that night. But she wasn't alone. Morning light. Arizona mornings came soft. Clara stepped barefoot onto the porch at sunrise. The desert looked gentler in gold light. She began sweeping without being asked. Ben followed her around like a curious pup. "Mr. Cade ain't my pa," he explained proudly. "He just found me once." "Where?" "In town. Sheriff didn't want me." Clara crouched to his height. "He treats you well?" Ben grinned. "Better than anyone ever did." Clara's chest tightened. She knew that feeling. Inside, Jonah watched from the table. Said nothing. Her story. Days passed. Clara worked quietly, mending shirts. collecting eggs, cooking stew from what little the land provided. One afternoon, while washing dishes, she spoke without turning around. "My father owed debts," she said. Jonah dried plates beside her. "He gambled more than he worked. Water dripped into the basin. He promised me to a man who owned a saloon." She swallowed. "I ran the night before." Jonah's jaw tightened slightly. "They won't stop looking," she finished. Silence. "Then they will." It was not loud, but it was certain. Growing roots, small gestures built a bridge between them. Clara left a yellow wildflower on the porch step. Jonah pressed it between pages of his old notebook. Jonah placed a folded cloth on Clara's favorite rock by the paddock so she could sit comfortably. Clara noticed. They never mentioned these things, but both understood. The riders returned. One bright morning, Clara spotted dust rising beyond the hills. 3 horses, fast. Her blood ran cold. Jonah! He saw it too. Inside. Take Ben. The door splintered under the first kick. Chaos filled the house. One man lunged for Clara. Jonah slammed him into the table. Another grabbed Ben. A knife flashed near the boy's throat. Jonah froze. Clara didn't. She grabbed the rifle from above the hearth. Her hand shook. "Let him go." The outlaw sneered. "You don't have the nerve." Behind her, the old ranch hand, Miguel, entered with a shotgun. "Try her," Miguel warned. The room held its breath. Clara fired. The shot grazed the outlaw's shoulder. Ben dropped free. Miguel fired into the ceiling. The men fled, but not before one struck Jonah hard against the head. He fell. "Hard," Clara screamed. "Holding on." For 3 days, Jonah drifted between sleep and silence. Clara refused to leave his side. She fed him broth, cooled his brow, spoke to him softly as if her voice alone could tether him to the earth. "Don't you leave," she whispered. On the 4th night, his fingers curled around hers. "You still here?" he murmured. Clara laughed through tears. "Yes." Healing. Weeks passed. The ranch mended. The door was repaired. The yard cleared. Jonah worked slower but steadier. Ben's laughter returned. Clara no longer flinched at distant hoofbeats. One evening, as dusk painted the desert gold, she stood beside Jonah on the porch. "At first," she said softly, "I only asked to hide beneath your coat." He turned toward her. "But now, I want to stand beside you." The wind moved through dry grass. Jonah didn't speak. He didn't need to. His hand found hers and held it. The promise. They walked together to the edge of the pasture. Wildflowers dotted the land in stubborn patches of yellow. The world beyond the fence remained harsh. But here, there was laughter. There was safety. There was love that didn't ask questions before offering shelter. Clara once begged to disappear beneath a stranger's coat. Now she stood in open sunlight beside him. The desert hadn't softened. They had. And sometimes, that was enough. If this story touched you, out here in the West, the land keeps its scars. But so do people. And sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is stay. If this story moved you, like this video, comment your favorite moment. Share it with someone who believes in second chances. Subscribe to U.S. Wild West Love Stories for more unforgettable frontier romances. Because in a land of dust and danger, love still grows like wildflowers. And some promises are strong.